The WISC fourth edition stands for Wechsler's Intelligence Scale for Children, and the fourth edition is the most current that their schools are using. There was the revised version, but they aren't using that anymore. This is the newest version. It's administered individually, so it's just student and counselor. I personally don't have one of them with me because they're very expensive, and the school that I intern at, they don't let them off campus. So this is typically how it would be set up. The psychologist, would sit on one side, and then the student would sit on the other. And then along with the packet, you can get, I'll just use this for a visual, but something that you could flip through the student as you go along the two sections of the test. Typically it takes about 60 to 90 minutes, just depending on the student, so it is a fairly lengthy test. You do need to get permission, obviously, by the parents. And it just, again, it depends on the child. It has two major sections. The first is verbal, and the second is perceptual, or also known as nonverbal. So verbal and nonverbal. In the verbal section, there are three subsets that are administered orally, and the child responds orally. So sometimes psychologists, too, will use this to write notes when the student is responding. There are also some psychologists directly fill out the form, and then others just write notes and then go back and fill it out later. So that's kind of how that works. The three verbal sections are broken up into similarities, which looks at logic and verbal reasoning. Something, for example, like colors. Why is blue blue? Why is red red? Or why are they different? The second is vocabulary, and this looks at the function of the word. So you might ask, what is an island? What is this, that? And then the student will respond as follows. The third is comprehension, and this looks at the practical knowledge. For example, why do cars have seatbelts? And the student's ability to solve those types of questions. The nonverbal section also has three subsets, so there's three in the first and three in the second. And here the child works with blocks and looks at pictures and doesn't respond orally. So this is something you give a child blocks and they design it, which is called block design. And they use colored blocks to reproduce designs that are shown to him or her. So they'll get shown a picture of what they need to build and what colors need to go where, and then they'll have to then create that. The second of the nonverbal or perceptual section of the test is picture concepts. So the child looks at many different pictures that have objects on them and then picks two or three that go together. So it really focuses on categorizing skill. So an apple, banana, and a golf club, which ones would go together, things like that. So that's the second part. The third and final subset of the nonverbal is matrix reasoning. So the child looks at patterns and fills in the blank, and obviously it's for reasoning skills. So for example, they get shown a sentence or a picture that displays what's missing, and they are required to fill it in. And then there are places to mark on the WISC as far as length of time, and if the student asks questions, clarifying questions are okay, but beyond that, the psychologist is not allowed to really answer any of those. The test also measures or can measure memory and speed of processing with the use of another 4 subsets, and that's just also dependent on the student. Those subsets are digit span, letter numbering sequencing, coding, and symbol search. There are also other supplemental subsets that one may or may not use depending on the child, and it's, again, just really trying to focus on what needs to be assessed, and then from there, what needs to be administered. You get an IQ score for verbal and perceptual areas, as well as a full scale IQ. So it's really a great test for students ages 6 to 17, and it's a great way just to assess what they are lacking, what skills they're developing, and things of that nature. So it's really a great resource. That is the WISC-IV 4th edition.